changing your life one story at a time. This is the Chicken Soup for the Soul podcast with Editor-in-Chief Amy Newmark.
Hey, it's Amy Newmark with your Chicken Soup for the Soul. And we're talking about dogs a lot this month because our new dog book is out. It's called What I Learned from My Dog. Now, we spent 2 years collecting the stories for this book, and it came out great. The stories are really entertaining, but also they're pretty inspirational because they show us how fabulous the dogs in our lives are, because we do learn so much from our canine best friends. We learn how to be forgiving and grateful and how to live in the moment, which is a really good skill. And the stories in this book are so funny too, because we have all these stories about dogs being dogs, like when they get into trouble. And even though they're bad, we end up bragging about whatever bad things they did. And dogs, of course, are quite the heroes. They always know when we need comforting or when we're sick. And if we rescued them from the pound or we adopted a stray, they somehow figure out how to return the favor by rescuing us too. Dogs are smart. And today's stories are about dogs acting as teachers for their humans and also for their dog siblings. So we're going to start today with a story from Kim Engelman about just that. Kim had installed a doggy door, and she couldn't wait to show it to Linda, her very large rescue dog, because Linda always drove her crazy. She was always whining to go out. She'd go out, then she'd make Kim let her right back in. Then she'd whine to go out again. And there was all this whining and all this in and out. And then sometimes Kim would get up from her seat and go and open the door, and then the dog wouldn't even go out anyway. So Kim says the doggy door installation was actually for the bipeds in the family who like to sit in comfortable chairs after 7 at night. It was for those who like to watch movies all the way through without interruption or finish a conversation without going to the door. So she was really happy. She showed Linda how the doggy door worked and how she could push through it and go into the backyard whenever she wanted. Look, Linda, wow, you have your own door. It's great to have your own door. And she went on, telling Linda how exciting this was, and Linda was not excited. In fact, she acted as if she was terrified. That doggy door was so scary. She hunched down, she flattened her ears, and then she fled down the hall and hid under the bed. Well, Kim had to go to work, but she was relieved when she came home that night, and Linda was fine again. She was wagging her tail and showing her normal joy that her human had returned. But the moment that Kim showed her the doggy door again, the dog struggled to get away. And then she went and she hid in the cat's crate, and she stayed there all night while the poor cat just stared her down. So Kim gave up on the doggy door, and that meant that the dog was back to her normal, annoying habit of whining and howling and making the humans in the house open the door for her over and over again. Well, months passed, and then Kim came home from work, and Linda wasn't waiting at her normal place inside the door. In fact, Kim went searching for her. She found the dog was outdoors, bounding around the yard. So how had she gotten out there? Had she used the doggy door? Well, she had. And when Kim went back inside, Linda came inside too, crashing through the doggy door. And then another dog came bounding into the house, this bulldog mix that was big and drooling. And Kim had never seen this dog before. And she says, that is how we acquired Lincoln. He had no ID tags. And though we posted an ad, no one claimed him. Later, we found the hole he had dug underneath the fence to get to Linda. Despite all his weaknesses and incessant slobber, the fact that Linda had been taught by Lincoln how to use the doggy door obligated us, of course, to provide him with a home. So Kim's dog learned a big lesson from a stray dog. And in our next story, Lois Tuffin talks about what she learned from her dog. Lois worked at a newspaper, And her story opens with her sitting in her office talking on the phone with one of her editors about how to avoid a nuisance lawsuit from the subject of one of their stories. She was sitting there, and then suddenly this yellow Labrador Retriever puppy ran in, and then Lois saw her husband at her office window. He had said that day that he was just going to look at a litter of puppies, but apparently he'd done more than just look. So Lois had to go tell her production team they were delaying going to press with that issue of the paper due to that legal problem. And the puppy went with her, and the puppy delighted everyone in the office. 2 weeks later, Lois's husband was away, and she had to squeeze in puppy care between work obligations. And then she had to drive 40 minutes north to take a few photos of an outdoor event that really nobody would even care about by the time the photos ran in the paper. And what she really wanted to do was stay home on this beautiful summer day with this lovely new puppy. And she felt guilty that she had left her alone all day. That night, Lois took the puppy for a walk, and the puppy chased down a venomous toad and pounced on it with her mouth open, and Lois couldn't stop her in time. That toad sprayed poison into the dog's mouth. And for a larger dog, the consequences might not have been so dire. But for a little puppy that hardly weighed anything, the dose was really toxic. So the dog had a terrible night with all kinds of GI problems, but she did survive. And it opened Lois's eyes. She says, "Suddenly the priorities in my life became crystal clear. I wanted to be home. I wanted to play with her and my older dog. Why was I making the outside world a greater priority every day? Clearly, newspapers could go out into the world without me. Deadlines could bend. It took the brown eyes of a tiny dog to show me this revelation." That little puppy not only changed Lois's life, but also the life of the elderly black lab they had at home. That old dog revived and started playing and running about again, inspired by the puppy. And the old dog lived another 2 years as a result. Lois says, "As for me, I started to negotiate my exit plan from my stressful job early in the new year while taking off more personal time. It took a while for the details to fall into place, but I resigned before the following summer." So we started that story with a quote from Dolly Parton that goes like this: "Never get so busy making a living that you forget to make a life." I'm Amy Newmark. Thanks for listening. If you want to learn more about our new books and everything else going on at Chicken Soup for the Soul, you can join the more than 2 million people who follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and X, or visit our website, which is chickensoup.com. And if you want to learn more about this new book, go to chickensoup.com and you'll see the book featured, and you can click on it and see the front cover and the back cover and read more about what's inside Chicken Soup for the Soul, What I Learned from My Dog, which you'll find at many big box stores, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Amazon, and other booksellers. And I do hope you'll come back for our next episode. I'll be sharing a couple of stories about why it's never too late to make a New Year's resolution, and how one resolution you can add to your list is one that will expand your life by saying yes to new things instead of shying away from them.